Liberalism. Liberalism is centered around the ideas of individual freedoms, democracy, and equality. It advocates for civil rights, free speech, and the right to vote. Liberals believe that individuals should be free to live their lives with minimal government interference, but they also support government intervention when it comes to promoting social justice and reducing inequality. This includes public services like healthcare, education, and welfare programs to ensure everyone has equal opportunities. Historically, figures like John Locke and John Stuart Mill have shaped the foundations of liberal thought. Today, many Western countries, like Canada and much of Europe, follow liberal principles, balancing individual freedoms with social safety nets. Conservatism. Conservatism emphasizes tradition, social stability, and maintaining established institutions. Conservatives argue that society functions best when there is order, respect for authority, and a commitment to cultural values passed down through generations. They believe in limited government intervention in the economy, favoring free markets, but they often advocate for more traditional social structures. Think of policies promoting family values, law and order, and a strong national defense. Edmund Burke was one of the key figures who shaped modern conservative thought, promoting the idea that change should be gradual, not revolutionary. Today, conservative parties around the world, like the Republican Party in the US or the Conservative Party in the UK, often advocate for lower taxes, smaller government, and free enterprise. Socialism. Socialism, which seeks to address inequality by advocating for collective ownership of the means of production. Socialists argue that instead of allowing the market to dictate wealth distribution, the state or the people should play a direct role in ensuring that basic needs like healthcare, housing, and education are met for everyone. Socialism, especially in its democratic form, is often associated with countries like Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, where governments provide extensive social services funded by higher taxes. Figures like Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels are synonymous with socialism, with Marx's vision of a classless society being one of the most revolutionary ideas in history. While Marx focused on revolutionary socialism, there are many different types of socialism today, including democratic socialism, which works within democratic structures to achieve social equity. Communism. Communism takes socialism a step further, aiming to completely abolish class distinctions by eliminating private property. In a communist society, all resources and means of production would be owned by the community as a whole, with goods and services distributed based on need rather than wealth. Marx and Engels envisioned this as the final stage of human development after capitalism, but in practice, communist regimes have often faced major challenges. Countries like the former Soviet Union, China, and Cuba attempted to implement communism, but many critics argued that instead of achieving equality, these systems often led to authoritarianism and economic inefficiencies. The legacy of communism remains highly debated, with some seeing it as an idealistic failure and others as a path toward a fairer society. Capitalism. Capitalism, which stands almost in direct opposition to socialism and communism. Capitalism is based on the idea of private ownership and a free market. In a capitalist system, individuals and businesses own the resources, and competition drives innovation and economic growth. The belief is that the pursuit of personal profit leads to a more efficient allocation of resources than any central planning could achieve. However, capitalism is not without its criticisms. While it has driven incredible technological advances and raised living standards for many, it has also led to significant inequalities, with wealth increasingly concentrated in the hands of a few. The US, many European countries, and Japan are largely capitalist economies where market forces play a crucial role in shaping society. Fascism. Fascism, a far-right ideology that emerged in the early 20th century. Fascism rejects both democracy and socialism, instead promoting an authoritarian government with a focus on strong, centralized control. Fascists believe in the supremacy of the nation or race, and often promote militarism, nationalism, and a strong leader who embodies the will of the people. Fascism is notorious for its role in the rise of totalitarian regimes in Europe, most notably under Benito Mussolini in Italy and Adolf Hitler in Nazi Germany. These regimes led to catastrophic human rights abuses, including the Holocaust. While fascism as a political force is much less prominent today, its influence still lingers in extremist movements that promote authoritarianism and ultranationalism. Anarchism. Anarchism, an ideology that opposes all forms of hierarchical authority, including the state. Anarchists believe that society should be organized based on voluntary cooperation and mutual aid, rather than being governed by centralized institutions. The word anarchy often brings to mind chaos, but anarchists envision a society where people can live freely without coercion or domination. There are different forms of anarchism, ranging from anarcho-communism, which advocates for communal ownership and decision-making, to individualist anarchism, which emphasizes complete personal freedom. Thinkers like Pierre-Joseph Proudhon and Emma Goldman have been influential in shaping anarchist thought, which continues to inspire movements around the world advocating for direct democracy and self-governance. Libertarianism. Libertarianism, which, like anarchism, values individual freedom but doesn't reject the state entirely. Libertarians believe that people should be free to live their lives with as little government interference as possible. This extends to both personal choices and economic activities. Libertarians argue that the government should exist only to protect individuals' rights, such as life, liberty, and property, and that any other government action is an overreach. They advocate for free markets, low taxes, and limited regulations. Figures like Ayn Rand and Friedrich Hayek have been influential in promoting libertarian thought, which has gained significant popularity in countries like the US, particularly in discussions around personal freedom and economic policy. Environmentalism. Environmentalism is a political ideology that's become increasingly relevant today. Environmentalists prioritize the protection of the planet and advocate for sustainable practices that reduce pollution, combat climate change, and preserve natural resources for future generations. This ideology cuts across traditional political boundaries, as the effects of environmental degradation are global in scope. Environmentalists call for policies that limit industrial emissions, protect endangered species, and transition to renewable energy sources. Movements like the Green Party and figures like Rachel Carson have played key roles in promoting environmentalism, which is no longer a fringe ideology, but a crucial part of the global political conversation. Nationalism. Nationalism, an ideology that places the interests of the nation-state above all else. Nationalists believe in the sovereignty of their nation, often seeking to protect its culture, economy, and security from foreign influence. While nationalism can foster a sense of pride and unity within a country, extreme forms of nationalism can lead to xenophobia, racism, and even war. In history, nationalist movements played a significant role in the unification of Germany and Italy in the 19th century, and more recently, they have been central to anti-immigration movements in Europe, and the US nationalism remains a powerful force in global politics today, as many countries grapple with the balance between globalism and protecting national interests. Feminism. Feminism is another key ideology that seeks to achieve gender equality in all areas of life. Feminists advocate for equal rights for women in political, economic, and social spheres. The feminist movement has gone through several waves, from the suffragette movements of the late 19th and early 20th centuries that fought for women's right to vote, to more modern-day battles against issues like the gender pay gap, reproductive rights, and gender-based violence. Prominent feminist figures include Simone de Beauvoir, whose work highlighted the systemic oppression of women, and Gloria Steinem, a key figure in the second-wave feminist movement. Feminism continues to influence policy debates and social movements around the world. Populism. Populism is a political approach rather than a strict ideology. Populists claim to represent the people against the elite, often positioning themselves as outsiders fighting against a corrupt establishment. Populism can appear on both the left and right of the political spectrum. On the left, populists often focus on economic inequality and call for redistributive policies. On the right, populists may emphasize nationalism, anti-immigration stances, and a rejection of political correctness. Figures like Donald Trump in the US and Hugo Chavez in Venezuela have used populist rhetoric to appeal to voters who feel disenfranchised by the political system. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell for more insightful content like this.